Now listen to me closely, because I am only going to say this once before the humidity reaches a percentage that makes my foundation slide right off my face and onto this linoleum. Everyone in the South is not a racist and bigot, despite what those people in the Hamptons or the writers for those late-night talk shows would have you believe while they're sipping their overpriced kombucha. It is a tired, dusty narrative, as worn out as the velvet on a settee in a house that hasn't seen a coat of paint since the Eisenhower administration. We are a complicated, sweltering tapestry of people, living in the shadow of moss-draped oaks that have seen more secrets than a New Orleans confessional. And some of us are trying very hard to breathe through the heavy, perfumed air of tradition without choking on the dregs of it. You see, there is a certain kind of Southern Gothic madness that settles into the bones of a family, a sort of psychic rot that smells like gardenias and old mothballs. It's that Blanche Dubois desperation to cling to a gentility that never truly existed, a world where we all pretend the silver doesn't need polishing and the skeletons in the closet aren't currently auditioning for a community theater production. My mother, bless her heart and her ironclad convictions, sits on her porch like a deposed queen of a crumbling empire, fanning herself with a program from the 1974 Azalea Festival and clinging to a social hierarchy that is about as relevant as a rotary phone in a lightning storm. She views the changing world not as progress, but as a personal affront to her recipe for divinity candy. I have spent my entire life navigating the labyrinthine hallways of her expectations, watching her curate a life of propriety that is really just a fortress built of microaggressions and lace doilies. She talks about heritage with a capital H, her voice dropping into that specific honeyed register that implies anyone who wasn't born within 20 miles of a cotton gin is somehow spiritually deficient. To her, the world is a series of very neat boxes, and she has spent decades trying to shove me into one that smells of lavender and exclusion. But I've always been the one to leave the screen door unlatched, letting in the heat, the mosquitoes, and the truth of a world that is far more vibrant and messy than her color-coded seating charts allow. It's exhausting, really, being the progressive daughter in a house where the wallpaper is peeling from the sheer weight of unspoken prejudices. It's like being trapped in a Tennessee Williams play where the protagonist just wants to go to a brunch that isn't segregated by silent judgment. I find myself standing in the kitchen, listening to her lament the loss of grace in the modern world, which is usually her code for seeing a person of color in a position of authority, and I feel this frantic, fluttering need to shatter the crystal. I want to tell her that her grace was always a performance, a costume she wore to hide the fact that her heart was as narrow as a shotgun house. So I've made it my mission to be the fly in her buttermilk, the static on her favorite easy listening station. I make a point of embracing every beautiful, diverse, technicolor aspect of this century just to see the way her pearls rattle against her chest. I don't do it out of some sense of grand cinematic heroism. I do it because I refuse to inherit her myopia, and because there is a delicious, wicked satisfaction in watching her realize that her legacy is ending with a woman who actually likes the 21st century. It is a quiet rebellion, fought over pimento cheese and iced tea, a refusal to let the stagnant air of the past settle in my lungs. I've realized that the greatest sin you can commit in a house like mine isn't being loud or being poor, it's seeing the humanity in the other and realizing that her us versus them mentality is just a lonely, bitter island. every time I stand up for what's right or vote against the candidate she thinks is civilized or simply treat a stranger with the dignity she reserves only for her social circle, I can feel her disappointment radiating off her like heat from a pavement. And honestly, it's the most invigorating feeling in the world. I have found my own brand of Southern fire, and it doesn't require a burning cross or a closed mind. It just requires a backbone and a healthy dose of spite. At the end of the day, my conscience is clear and my heart is open, and quite frankly, I am not a racist because it pisses off my mother.